Lindenwood head coach Jed Stugart, the team coming off a loss against St. Thomas in week 1 of the season. They're going to be at FBS foe Appalachian State. That is this Saturday on ESPN Plus. So, Coach, some thoughts about your team, and we'll go to some questions.
Yeah, just we got a little baseline of where we feel like we're at as a team right now, which sometimes game one, that's what you got to get, kind of see where you're at. I honestly think, this was a game where we had too many guys spend too much time thinking about what happened last year. We were able to get a 63-0 shutout win last year against this team, and I think that just was something that our guys thought was just going to happen again. And I just give a lot of credit to Coach Caruso and his team, spending a lot of time in the offseason preparing a team, probably use that to his advantage, like we warned our kids for a long time, that they're not going to forget that game last year, and that they're, that they're going to be ready for us. And we just, we did a bunch of good things. Offensively, we had close to 500 yards of offense, but special teams just really killed us on Saturday or on Thursday night, and that's the reality. We had several drives, we got no points for it. We missed 3 field goals and an extra point. We got to fix that. And then gave up 2 touchdowns. One on a fake field goal that we were prepared for. We practiced and knew it was going to happen. We didn't execute it, and that was 7 points. And then we give up another touchdown after we stop them on 3rd down because of a lack of discipline. We get a personal foul, give them a first down, they end up going down and scoring. So you take 14 points were things that we could have controlled that we didn't, and we could have executed. But we got to finish drives in the end zone and not rely on touchdowns. So I don't just put that on there. So that was a little recap and just our mentality of going into that game, starting off as a must-win situation instead of feeling like and you know what? And I feel very positive about this team. I still feel like there's a lot of talent on this team. And I think this game gives us a really good opportunity to grow and find out the things that we need to change immediately to be the type of team that I think we can be. So it was a tough loss, but we learned a lot of lessons out of it. Going to be a good opportunity for our leadership to really rise up and lead. And we're going to be young in some spots. I haven't even talked about that in the preseason because I don't think that's an excuse. I don't think, and it still isn't. But the reality is there's a lot of young faces that need to understand what college football is and how they prepare mentally and when they're in situations making good decisions. And that's going to be, but that's why we coach. And that's frankly just a recap of that game. We got a tough one ahead of us. But I do like how our team responded yesterday, and getting back on a horse and learning through some of these things that we talked about, and and I feel good that we can grow from this experience.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go to some questions. I know Ben is with us. Ben, whatever you got, feel free to go ahead and with your questions.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Coach.
Hey, Ben.
Can you talk a little more about the kind of the inefficiencies in the red zone? I think you went in there 5 times, only came away with points once. But was it really good St. Thomas defense? Was it some things that weren't being executed on the offensive end? Can you go into a little bit more detail about that?
No, I think it's both. I think this is a much better football team this year that St. Thomas has than they had last year. I think Glenn's always been a great football coach and a very successful coach. And I knew, it's something we harped on a lot is that they're not going to be the same team. You just got to get your kids to believe that. And so I think a combination of in the red zone, when we got in the red zone, they did a great job with their pressures and gave us a lot of looks up front that we got behind the chains in the red zone where, now 2nd and long, we weren't able to get first downs in that red zone to put us in position. We had, we actually got to the end zone. Steve Hall just barely steps out of bounds to take away a touchdown, and and on the sideline, and that's one of those things where that's going to happen. You got to go finish the drive. So we had some explosive plays, that that we didn't get in. We had, we had a few good, had a great catch and just barely got tripped up that kept him from scoring. So we, just keeping our feet there, like all of a sudden it could have been a lot different. But yeah, no, I think it's a combination of giving them credit defensively that they really gave us a lot of pressure looks in the red zone, and we've got to be able to up front, which is good experience for, 3 offensive linemen that are redshirt freshmen starting their first college football game that are very talented that, saw some real looks that you don't get to really see full speed in fall camp a lot. The good news is these young guys are very coachable and they're very sharp and smart, and they'll get those. Like I said, it's a good opportunity to grow. So yeah, that's one thing you achieve what you emphasize. We're going to really emphasize red zone this week on both offense and defense, and because we got to the red zone a lot, we just didn't finish drives. We can't just rely on field goals all the time.
You mentioned the wide receiver group last time we talked. It looked like some big plays in the passing game. I think 4 plays of over 35 yards in the first 5 drives. It looked like a lot of people were contributing. What did you see out of that wide receiver group?
I saw what I thought we'd see with Drew Crobath, and John Anthony had a nice game and explosive plays. We had Drew was outstanding. Fugate, our tight end. Like I said, we talked about that with how we really feel like we've got playmakers in the receiving core. We saw that on Saturday. Those explosive plays happen in midfield, and now we've got to get down and learn how we can punch those things in. And that's not always just on the players. We've got to keep finding out, how can we be effective down there? And sometimes, again, a first game, it kind of gives you a little bit more of a baseline on what we got to do and what we're good at and what we can emphasize building on those strengths. So I was really pleased with our receiver play. I think there's some young types of mistakes. We've got to not only be, I know we got to be better. There's some guys that are going to be challenged this week about, it's not all about just catching balls. It's about blocking on a perimeter. It's about doing things that sometimes receivers don't like to do. And, we set the standard here, and guys have to meet that standard. So, there may be some different faces on the field that, want to block on the perimeter that, and not just catch balls all the time. So we're challenging them, not only just catching balls, but what they do just in the run game.
Yeah. And just one more question, coaches. Do you anticipate a change at the place kicker position going forward to this week?
No, I think, Will Graham, I have a lot of confidence in Will. This was Will's first college football game. Sometimes I remember when Logan, who was our great kicker we had for 4 years, I remember Logan's first couple games as a freshman and getting that first rush, full speed rush and things. You try to simulate those in practice, and we do a lot. Will's been very consistent kicking in practice. We feel very comfortable. We're gonna hang with Will. Obviously we're going to put him in a lot of pressure situations this week with the team, and get a lot of people around him, and a little bit of keep throwing bags, get yelling, screaming, shoot, maybe doing things to put a lot of pressure on him, because he can handle it. We're going to hang with him, and we believe in Will.
Great. Thanks, Coach.
Coach, last year is the first year you played a FBS team in Kansas. So now obviously you're playing again. Just a little bit more thoughts on the trip, and it's pretty impressive place to play in Boone, North Carolina.
Yeah, I think that's, from a setting standpoint and experience, it's going to be a great place to play. An electric atmosphere. I think it's sold out. There's going to be 30,000 plus people there. So we got to prep for that. We got to prep for noise. We got to prep for a lot of that stuff that you got to prep for. But it's a play-by-play concept that you got to go in, and all I've asked for is for our guys to go compete every play to the best of their ability, and kind of let the chips fall where they may. We were a very much favored team in this game last week by a high percentage. It goes to show you. That's why you got to go play the game. And now we're going to be the major underdog, just like St. Thomas was against us. And those guys outplayed us. They out-physicaled us. And, And now we have to go try to match the same thing and go. So it's not just about going and having great experience, although I think it will be. But it's being on the road, playing in hostile environments are great opportunities for guys to, face adversity, how do you handle adversity? How do these are things that can pay off down the road. And then when it comes to that game, of course, we're going to be a major underdog, but I want to see how our kids respond. I think we got humbled last week. We needed to get humbled. I think, I think sometimes guys, they're 18 and 22-year-old kids, and when they get told, hey, we're picked this, and, we're supposed to beat this team 63-0 again and blah, blah, blah. And then you go out and get punched in the face. It's like, okay, you either punch back or that's what's going to happen. So like I said, a lot of opportunities. Now we see how we respond. And I just want to see how we respond as far as our physicality, how we play, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Well, Coach, appreciate your time this morning. Best of luck this weekend. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.